Task 1 is done, hopefully. And what you should have done is taken a photograph. If you weren't here, photographs of where you're up to sitting in your photo dump. So you need to download that to your computer. Once we've done task 1, we can do task 1A. Task 1A is using the Liquify tool in Photoshop. It's still going to be influenced by themes of futurism and movement. We're simply going to emphasize. So the first thing to do, open Photoshop. And what we need to do, of course, is click on the Open function. Now, if you don't have Photoshop for some reason, you can't use paint.net for this. You might find one of the iPhone apps in Photoshop will work as well if you want to try that. So we need to find your picture. I have my picture in a file and I'll drag it out. Oh, wrong one. Here we go. So I'm going to choose a raw image, maybe this one. Before we liquify, we might crop and play with the colour first. Now the point of this lesson is to use the Liquify tool and use Photoshop and save a version of what you're doing, at least one. Before we start, well, that's not the one I want, is it? Try that again. This one here. That's better. Before we start, probably a good idea is to make sure you've got the layers window. Window, layers. Well, there's lots of ways of doing this. The first thing is using this marquee tool here. I select the image without getting any of the background in. I'll lose a little bit, but not too much. And then I select image and I crop. Using the zoom tool, I can zoom straight in or even fit to screen. Well, what we want to do now is play around with colour and brightness and contrast. So again, image, adjustments, brightness, contrast. A good idea is to click on the use legacy button, which means in contrast it goes to the max, which is too much. But here we can increase the darks and increase the lights. And you can play around with brightness, of course, as well. I'm happy with that. Okay. Next, image, adjustments, hue and saturation. I'm going to play with the colour. Now, saturation just means an increase in the amount of colour. Completely saturation means it's grayscale, no colour at all. The hue will change the colour. Those fiery reds and oranges maybe. Let's have a look further down here. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I might drop the saturation a bit. It's a bit too much. Have a bit more red and orange. Good. Now if I've done that, I'm happy. I can file, save as. I don't want to save to my cloud, I'm going to save to my computer. If I save to my computer, it basically means I can back it up to the cloud later if I don't do already. We select JPEG, but change the file name and click save. But we're going to use the Liquify tool. Filter, Liquify. It should open in a new window for you, and there's lots to do. Here's the main tool here, the forward warp tool. Reconstruct to undo your mistakes. We've got a smooth tool and a whole bunch of different things to play with here. And of course we can change the sizes. Really it's the forward warp tool I want to use most of, which is this one here. I want to accentuate the movements even more. So this fist flying forward, I can click and drag up to there. And I can make it quite strong as well. Same with these legs. I can zoom them down, pull them out. I can even drag him and let him reach the ground. In fact, there's quite a lot you can do. There's pucker tools, twirl tools, bloat tools. Once you've had a big play around, then you need to save your changes. Lots of things you can do to pressure, and you can move and change things around, of course, as well. The concept, of course, is to emphasize movement even more. These big sweeping curves. And of course in the background I can do a lot. Once I'm happy, I click OK. It alters the changes, File, Save As, and then again change the file name. Now you can make a whole array of these, different colours, different intensities of Liquify, and of course they'll go straight in your folio. It's one lesson. Tomorrow we're moving on to the next task. Until then, email me if you have any questions.